FORA.tv. The world is thinking.
Have you heard of Bradley Manning, who is the alleged accused source to WikiLeaks of the Afghan war logs that were printed a couple of months ago in several publications? He's now in jail in Quantico, where I went to officer candidate course in the Marines, but he's in the brig, and maybe the rest of his life. He said to an informant that he was prepared to go to jail, prison, all his life, or even be executed, he said, to put out this information. And I recognized someone who was in the same spirit that I was 40 years ago. Actually, there hasn't been an unauthorized disclosure on that scale since the Pentagon Papers 40 years ago. And although there have been creditable leaks that have been helpful in a small scale, some very timely and very good, but nothing on a scale of really laying open the war at his level in the way that he did. But I've never seen anyone speak of the consciousness of a willingness to go to prison in order to put the truth out, as I did. So he's a hero of mine. And what brought him to mind at this particular moment, having just said that what I did, is this. The Times had a profile, the New York Times had a profile of him, having used the material that he put out, or is accused of putting out, but I'm going to give him credit for having done it, even though he's only accused, that maybe the Army Justice, or the Justice Department for once, is on the right track here, and has given me somebody to admire, who really was a source. And he may well spend life in prison. But the New York Times profile pointed out that he was really, it said really nothing that by ordinary standards would be regarded as good about him. He was an outsider, he was a loner, he was gay, he was broken up emotionally by having been a love affair with a man that had just broken up. And all of this was clearly not meant to establish him as exemplary in the public mind, I would say. And then they quoted a classmate of his from high school in Oklahoma, where he had lived for a number of years. His mother is now in Wales, and he'd been there and he'd been in the Army. And he was estranged from his father, who was in Oklahoma. But when he was in Oklahoma, this classmate said, very smart, but an outsider, a loner, who very much had his own opinions on things, which were often immovable. He was very stubborn. The Times quoted all this, and not the rest of the paragraph, which I'd seen elsewhere. For example, said this classmate, he believed in the theory of evolution. And I remember I was talking to his aunt, who had just seen him in prison, and they were laughing about that quote. He said, yeah, that's the way people were back in Oklahoma. And it occurred to me, Bradley Manning is a credit to evolution, actually. And that's why he's in prison in this country, which is doing what he was exposing. By the way, you can see the first thing he's accused of exposing, on YouTube or the internet, it's the collateral murder video, the title given it by WikiLeaks, of an Apache helicopter attack that killed 12 I think, civilian-dressed people in Baghdad, including a wounded man clearly crawling away, wounded, clearly unarmed, in the street, whom they target and eliminate. And you hear their voices on the thing, get him, got him, with ground troops blocks away coming onto the scene. He happened to be a Reuters photographer. They didn't know that, but what they did know was he was a wounded man crawling away for help, and they murdered him. And Julian Assange has been criticized for using the phrase collateral murder. He could have said collateral damage, or the usual comment, or no comment at all. People really have criticized him for calling that murder. Well, as a matter of fact, anybody who remembers the laws of war that he learned, like Howard and I did in the service, knows that was murder, and nothing other under those circumstances. And you can argue about some of the other people they slaughtered. while they were unaware who they were and might be worried, but, you know, an unarmed person, no threat and so on. Murder, okay. So for that is a charge against him, that he released that video. And have any of you seen that? It's fairly widely seen. How many have seen that? Okay, well, the others, look it up. Just look on Google, collateral murder, or YouTube, and you'll see the video, I'm sure.